Hello, my name is Dennis, and welcome to my trailer park white trash mobile home kitchen. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen.
I thought I would do something fun today. Chinesey, sort of Chinesey. I say Chinesey again because I just did, the last video I did was pork chow mein, and I say sort of Chinesey because I'm going to be doing fortune cookies, and they're not originally from China. I think there's some dispute as to whether they came from New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles, something like that. But I thought it would be fun to do fortune cookies in which I write the fortunes for living in a trailer park, which is where I live. Things like there's a double wide in your future, or you have a secret admirer in the trailer park. Stuff like that. Now, I've made a lot of fortune cookies. I tried a lot of different recipes that I found on the internet. The problem I had with them all was that they wouldn't get crisp all the way through. They were soggy and chewy and gummy in the middle. I never solved that problem through any of the procedures that were in those recipes. So I came up with my own procedure. It works. I like how they turn out. So that's what I want to show you today. But first, let's get into the ingredients that I'm going to be using for making my trailer park fortune cookies. The ingredients for fortune cookies are simple and inexpensive. This will be enough to make about a dozen cookies. If you want to make 2 or 3 dozen, just multiply the proportions up. So I need 2 egg whites from 2 large eggs, 1/2 cup or 2.5 ounces, 71 grams all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup, 60 grams of powdered sugar. That's a 1/2 cup packed. I pressed this down to fill that 1/2 cup up because I want sweet cookies. And then 1/2 teaspoon almond extract, or you could use vanilla extract. I'm using vanilla extract. And then finally your printed fortunes, whatever would be appropriate for your audience. If you're making this for a birthday party for kids, you might want to make some fortunes that would entertain children. So those are the ingredients I'm using. I put my egg whites in a mixing bowl here. I'm going to add my vanilla. I know each of these is 1/4 teaspoon. And then I want to just whip these up with a whisk until they're foamy. I don't need to whip these up into peaks. I just want to get these broken up and foamy. And that should be it. That's all I need. I want to sift my flour and my powdered sugar together. And by the way, I should mention that I'm heating my oven up to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And what is that? That's about 190 degrees Celsius. The reason why I'm sifting this is the powdered sugar tends to get lumpy, and then it's harder to get smooth cookies. And there we go, that looks good. Okay, finally I want to combine my wet and dry. So I'm going to pour in there now my foamy egg whites. And then I want to mix this up. And this will form kind of a runny but fairly stiff batter. I want that. Some of the recipes use a very runny batter, but this is what works best for me. Some will actually add water. I don't add any water. All right, so now this is ready now. As soon as my oven comes up to temperature, I'll start preparing my cookies to bake. While my oven is coming up to temperature, I thought I would explain how I'm going to bake these. I've tried using greased baking sheets, parchment paper. My silicone baking mat works best as far as the final cookies. The only problem I don't like about this mat is it smokes horrendously, especially at high temperatures. It's rated for much higher than I'm cooking at. And there's my oven up to temperature. But this mat gives me the nicest cookies. Now, the problem I've always had trying to do these cookies is getting them thin enough. If you're really good with a palette knife or an offset spatula, spreading the cookie dough really, really thin and getting it nice and even, do it that way. I cheated. I came up with a stencil, a template. If you recognize these holes, this was actually much bigger. This was a divider from a loose leaf ring binder. Works well for me. So what I do to get perfect cookies every time is I spoon my batter on there along one side. And then this is actually a palette knife that I picked up at an art supply store. I just spread it across, fill the depression. Perfect cookie every time. Someone wrote to me and said that Alton Brown described his Good Eats program as 1/3 Julia Child, 1/3 Mr. Wizard, and 1/3 Monty Python. And the person who wrote to me said, Dennis, you are 1/3 Julia Child, 1/3 woodshop teacher, and 1/3 teddy bear. That's appropriate. So this is the woodshop teacher part of me. If it doesn't fill in all the holes, it's okay. Just smear it around until you get it all filled nicely. That's not working well because I'm running into the side of the baking sheet. I'm going to add a little bit more to that because I'm not quite getting it the way I want it. There, that's much nicer. Okay, so now I'm going to bake these anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. You have to watch them very closely because when they start to brown around the edge, they brown very rapidly. You want them to brown about 1/2 inch in from around the edges in order to get them crisp enough. While these are baking, I'm going to talk about shaping the cookies. I'm going to show you in a moment, once those cookies are done, the actual shaping of the cookie. You need something over which to shape the cookie. It could be the edge of a saucepan. It could be the edge of a bowl. I taped a dowel to the handle of a large cooking pot. This works well for me. And then you need something to put the cookie in to hold its shape while it cools so that it doesn't unfold. Some people put them in a muffin pan. Some people just use an egg carton. This works fine for me. Do whatever is convenient for you. You need to hold the shape because as it cools down, it'll crisp and then it'll harden into that fortune cookie shape that you want. Okay, this next step has to be done very quickly while the cookies are still hot. So there's a nicely browned cookie. Put the fortune in the center and then bend it over the edge, in my case the dowel, and there's the fortune cookie. Set it in there to cool. This is the reason why I'm doing only 2 at a time, because if you let these cool down too much, then you can't shape them. Those baked for just under 8 minutes. That was the beeper that just went off. It was timed for 8 minutes. Okay, I'm going to do a close-up next when I do my next set of cookies so you can see close-up how I'm shaping these. Okay, again, working very quickly. Lift your cookie off. Put your fortune in the center and then fold it up like so, and then wrap it around your surface, whether this is a dowel or the edge of a bowl or a saucepan. Yes, they're hot, but if you handle the cookie by the edge, there's a good possibility. See, I'm just holding them by the very edge. There's a good possibility you won't get burnt at all. Now see, that one broke because I waited too long. That's what happens if you let them sit too long. They start to break very easily because they just get too cool and too crisp. So there they are. I made 3 dozen actually because I wanted to experiment with 3 different flavorings. So there's a dozen with almond extract, a dozen with vanilla, and a dozen with anise extract. So my last step is to break one of these open and see how good they taste. Now I know these came out crisp because I dropped one on the floor when I was moving it to the plate and it shattered like fine glass. Wonderfully crisp. Can you hear that? Perfect fortune cookies. Now I'm going to go give the rest of these away to my neighbors here in the trailer park. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.